Anong Montero ulit to?
Black Series, sir!
Eh, ba't puti yung nakasulat? This is a 2022 Mitsubishi Montero Sport Black Series. Now, it is not a new generation vehicle. It's not mechanically different from a lot of the Monteros that you may have seen on the road or maybe driven by your dad or definitely by your tito. But what they changed here? Well, some aesthetics, because Mitsubishi is trying to go for a younger customer with the Montero Sport Black Series. You can tell by looking at the black grille, black wheels, black roof rails, but strangely enough, for a car they call Black Series, it still has chrome here, chrome on the side mirrors and on the window sills, and even the silver side steps. And for a Black Series, it also comes in white. From the back, you can see some of the details that make this a Black Series. Actually, there's not much. Of course, this is the facelift version, which is why the taillights has been cut off here compared to the one before. But this version does have the black cladding here, unlike the GLS variant. Makes it younger, as they say. It still has the chrome here, but it's still a very nice looking rear end if you like the Montero Sport rear end with the spoiler. Now, if you look around some of the details on the side, you'll notice that the Montero Sport does have front and rear disc brakes. Actually, all variants have that. But one thing this one does have is a power tailgate. Now, I'm not going to mess around with the cabin space. I've already pre-folded this. And if you've driven a Montero Sport or have had to do that before, you'll know why. It's not exactly as easy as many of the others. It's not one touch. It's a bit more cumbersome to fold down this third row. And it's even more cumbersome to fold everything back up, including the second row. Now, in this configuration, the maximum width between the wheel wells is about 39 inches. With the third row folded, it's about 39 inches, so it's pretty much a 39 box. The folding down and tumbling of the second row does give you a nice longer space at 65 inches from here to there. But again, compared to some of the other rivals, it's not as good or as convenient as they are. Even though I'm not a big fan of how the Montero Sport folds down its rear seats, let me tell you now that I am very much a fan of this vehicle. Actually, Mitsubishi in general. For the longest time, I drove a Mitsubishi Lancer and I actually missed that car. But my friend George is now racing that car in the Philippine Rallycross Challenge, so I guess he's enjoying that car for me. But what I like about the Montero and what Mitsubishi has been doing in the last 10-20 years is that they produce products that just feel great to drive. This one is perhaps a very good example of that. You step inside, you sit in the driver's seat, it feels right, you know. The seat, it hugs you, you feel cocooned in here. It's not tight per se, it's more of it just kind of welcomes you inside and gives you a nice spot to drive from. Visibility, I like through the windows, everything. The driving position, I like for an SUV. I think this is one of the better ones out there. The controls, the driver orientedness, those are things that I really like in Mitsubishi, and yes, this one is a good example of that. Now, speaking of the interior, they did make a few adjustments in here. I mean, compared to the pre-facelift model, like from the one from 2016 to 2019. So this one is the latter part, has some new bits like the digital instrument cluster, which is actually really neat. It has not really a dial. I'm not sure what to call this. Maybe a tumbler type tachometer and a tumbler type speedometer. It's very different, but once you get used to it, it's all right. The center stack, the center area has always been something that this generation of Montero has been known for, because no other vehicle in its class does this kind of arrangement, and I really do like it. They updated the audio system with the new one, has Android Auto, and I think it also has Apple CarPlay. I'm not sure because I don't have an Apple. but the Android Auto is actually pretty stable even with the USB ports here. It also has an HDMI port. Now, in this day and age, I'm not sure what anyone would need an HDMI port for in their vehicle, but it's there if you ever need it. Dual zone climate control. It has that Nano E system, so it's a nice filter, I guess. But the thing that's really good is really the driving ergonomics. Like the steering wheel feels really good. Like I've always liked what they've done with this Montero Sport, and it has all the buttons you need for the audio, for the adaptive cruise control. Yes, adaptive cruise control. The 360 camera can be accessed here in the telephone. But what I've always liked with Mitsubishis, especially when they started coming out with the Outlander in 2006 here in the Philippines, are these fantastic paddle shifters. The magnesium alloy paddle shifters, I think that's what they call them. It just feels proper for any kind of vehicle, whether it's a sports car or even in an SUV like this. It just totally trumps the plus minus gate on the steering on the shifter, which this one also has, but it does have the push to shift up, pull to shift down, which I always thought is weird. But there you go, you can always override with these nice paddles. But that's really what's good about Mitsubishi. They really think of how drivers want to enjoy their vehicles, and this one, yeah, really stands up for that. This Black Series we're driving is a 4x2, meaning it's not the four-wheel drive version that you can take off-road and have fun with on a trail or on an open parking lot, open dirt road, if that's your kind of thing. This one is rear-wheel drive only, but that's all well and good. Again, they're targeting a younger customer base here with, that would normally use this for weekend adventures out of town, not really off-roading. But it does have limitations. Like, let's say if you go to a campground that does have a trail leading up to it, a very remote one, then this one you may have some trouble with it. You might not be able to go there. But if you're just going like to the beach, this should be perfectly fine. And the ground clearance is good. The water wading is good. It just gives you that feeling of height and capability, but not necessarily the full off-road experience. When the second generation Montero Sport came out in, I think, 2008 and 9, that one really set the tone for what customers want in their vehicle. Like, because before then it was the Fortuner that was the dominant force in this class. But the Montero Sport came out with a much better ride. It showed that vehicles like these PPVs don't have to be uncomfortable and bouncy like a pickup truck. Now, when they came out with the Montero Sport, yes, it broke the dominance of the Fortuner. And see that? Just ran over a pretty big pothole, and the vehicle is quite all right. But it's really the ride. That's what matters to a lot of customers, particularly here in the Philippines. Our roads are rough enough, and we don't need that same roughness out of our vehicle. This one comes with a 2.4 liter turbo diesel engine. It's the same one as the one that came out in 2016. No real changes there. It's got 181 horsepower, which is plenty for a vehicle like this. But the transmission is the one that we really like, because it's a smooth shifting one. This 8-speed transmission. Yes, it's not four-wheel drive, but it still does have the 8-speed automatic transmission driving the rear wheel. So when you're driving around the city, don't be surprised if you're getting north of 9 kilometers per liter. Usually around 9.3, 9.4, when the average speeds are around 24, 22 kilometers per hour, thereabouts. On the highway, it goes up significantly. Don't be surprised again if you're hitting around like the high 14s, maybe 14.8, if you're driving casually on the highway, being mindful of your RPM. The Montero Sport is not without its detractors in our market, particularly when it comes to 3 letters, S, U, and A. Now, personally, I've never experienced any kind of SUA with this generation or even the previous generation Mitsubishi Montero Sport, so I can't speak to that. Actually, the only thing I really remember about all of that is when those initial reports were coming out on that very day, I was filming with Mitsubishi before the launch of this generation Montero Sport. I believe that was January in 2016. And it kind of put a damper on the launch of the Montero Sport, because they really bank a lot on this vehicle. And Mitsubishi Motors Philippines, they've been here for a long time. I think they're the longest automaker here, continuously I think since 1963. They'll be celebrating their 60th year in the Philippines next year. And the stress it kind of put on them was kind of unfair because who knows? I mean, not all of us experienced that phenomenon, but if you did experience it, please do let us know in the comments below. Hopefully not. But I still really do like this Montero Sport. Now, if someone put in front of me all the keys of all the PPVs in a market, like Everest, well, not the new generation one yet, haven't driven that one yet, Fortuner, Terra, and what else is there? Mu X. If those keys are put right in front of me, along with the Montero Sport, I would probably get the Montero Sport. And that's because I just like the way it drives. I like the engineering that went into this vehicle because Mitsubishi, they really focus on the handling of the vehicle, on making it like when you drive it on a mountain road, on the highway, it just feels great. Like no other PPV actually feels as good as this when you're driving it fast, when you're driving it hard. And that's because a lot of the people in Mitsubishi, whether it's in Japan or even in the Philippines before, a lot of them were true hardcore Mitsubishi enthusiasts. And that's actually unique in our market because it's you get a lot of car companies where people don't stay as long. But with Mitsubishi, a lot of them before, they really stayed for a long time, and they really make sure that their cars are well equipped for us to review and make sure that when we drive them, well, hindi sila mapapahiya. If I was to sum up the Mitsubishi Montero Sport Black Series and the Montero Sport line in general in this generation, it's the last of an old breed, and a breed we really like. Now, let me explain what I mean there. Mitsubishi for decades has actually been a very enthusiast-driven company. A lot of the people there, a lot of people I know there, work there, engineering cars there, are very much car enthusiasts. And that's why when we are faced with, let's say, choices between SUVs or even cars, we tend to pick the Mitsubishis because they drive very well. Strada, the Lancer, now phased out, the Pajero, the Outlander, all these cars and SUVs were really good in the class, and many of them are now gone. Now, when the next generation Montero Sport comes along, it's going to be shared a lot with Nissan. Now, that is going to be a good thing for the economics of car engineering and car marketing, but it's a real shame to lose the kind of engineering, the dedication we see, the enthusiasm for the driving dynamics of a vehicle that goes into something like the Montero Sport. Now, when it comes to pricing, this one retails for 2,025,000 pesos. Is it worth it to you? I don't know. That's really all up to you. But to me, considering how well this still drives, I really still like it. And it's a crying shame that we're going to lose these kinds of vehicles because personally, I think engineering trumps marketing.